Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing Communications in the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I am joined by
Kasey Blouse, owner of Blouse House Creative.
Welcome, Kasey, for one of the episodes. I don't remember what number we're on now. Math. Again, I'm the marketing guy. We've asked all of the standard questions. What does success mean to you? What does failure mean to you? So really, we're diving more into business and what that means for you in particular. And you are in the industry of, one, making people look good, but two, when it comes to the branding and marketing and all of those aspects, you have such a high interest isn't the right word. Like, you're of high importance. Mm-hmm. Because one, most of what I see you do is print. I think you do some digital stuff, but most of what I've seen is print. But I think people sometimes forget how important it is that those need to be synonymous with one another. Because I've seen some cards that come out and I'm like, that's not what anything on your website looks like. So how do you interact with that? Like, I know we've talked about the process before, but at what point in that process are you saying, hey, maybe we need to look at these cards again, or maybe this isn't the best use of what you're doing?
Yeah, I think it depends, I feel like, on customers too, and like what they really are coming to you for. Because I've had people come like, I just want a logo. And while I try to like educate me, like, but you kind of need a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I've had some that are like, oh, well, just a logo for now. We'll deal with the branding later. And I'm like, ooh, we gotta flip those around. Right, you know, like we need the branding to get the logo and to get all the other things. So I think just like trying to educate, and I feel like I talk about that every episode I'm on, but like just so they understand the world a little better, because they're coming to me for my expertise in that world. And so it's like, I feel like I need to share whether they like it or not, or want to do it or not, you know, like at least I told you and offered the information up. So I think just making suggestions, and most of the time I feel like people are like, oh yeah, that's such a, good idea, or let me, they think about it, or we try to come up with like ways to make it better. I've had some come to me and been like, oh, well, I need changes because whoever said in their company said, oh, we need to make this different. Right. So I do get a lot kind of from both sides, like me and them, like, because there's some stuff I don't know about their business, so I don't know that it needs to change. But I do try to look at like websites and things if they have them. A lot of them, I feel like there's a lot of like smaller businesses that start out with just like a Facebook and still like doing it, and how they really can work together, I feel like is a huge thing that people probably should maybe work more on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I probably could work more on it for myself too.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't have time to do my stuff. But yeah, so just making sure people know who you are no matter where you are.
Yeah, because I think it is so often that someone thinks about branding and they go, that's my logo. That's it. And yes, your logo is a part of your branding, but that is not it. And that's an interesting word in that, like, your branding is not necessarily the same thing as your brand. Like, adding that little ing at the end does talk, because at the chamber, it is, the colors, the yellow, the blue, the green. There's now a gray because we have Invest before it, so that's all there. Those are our brand colors. That's a part of our branding, but that's not the entirety of what it is. It's also your voice, going through, and just how you interact with people. So when you have those conversations, how do you navigate the aspect of, I feel like a lot of people can see it as, oh, Kasey's trying to upsell me, versus, hey, I'm just trying to talk and educate.
I think asking questions is my biggest way I kind of try to get around that and not sound like, oh, well, you really should do this.
Right,
like no judgment, like what do you want it to sound like? And so I kind of get the answers of what their brand is, even if they don't have it written down or don't have it like, fleshed out. And then sometimes when I'm doing logos, I kind of I usually give a branding guide as far as like colors and fonts. And I kind of ask them, like, do you want some of this other stuff in there? Sometimes depending on, what they're doing and how much we've talked about, I just put it in there, whatever. It kind of just depends, but really asking the right questions to get the answers that you need, so you know what you need to do, whether it's you're designing a logo or even just like some marketing materials or signs or anything like that. Like knowing what their main goal is and what they want to accomplish through that, and relating it back to, you know, logo, fonts, things. My other biggest question that I ask is what they don't like, because I feel like that tells me so much more than what they actually think they like or want or whatever. So
I 100% agree. And I also think there's some of those pieces that without a design background, without even potentially a marketing background, you don't think about like the color theory and those things that go with it, because there are different colors that represent different things within design, that within your company and the structure. I mean, I know, you know, I think I've used this example a couple of times now in recording. Green is like the health or the money, and blue is tech, which honestly, I don't know why tech is mostly blue. But there's some of that. I mean, I wonder sometimes going into that, when they get to you, is it they've done that work? Are you seeing more people come to you and you're the one doing it?
I feel like it's 50-50.
Okay.
I have some people that come and have like all this stuff together, and they have samples of stuff they like and have colors. And I've had one person had fonts they like picked out, and I was like, all right, I'm impressed. Like, you've done half my job for me. Thank you. Yeah. But, you know, the other ones are like, I want the trendy color. Like, let's do that. And I'm like, oh, let's not. Like, you know, and I hate it because, like, I'm in a season right now where teal is trend, like, and so I have that. And so it's hard to be like, but you use it, like, yeah, but that's because I chose that.
Right, like it was there, yeah.
So it just happens to, you know, be popular at the moment. But so I think really trying to think about that, and I mean, finding out colors they really don't like I said, is really important. Like, I feel like people notice the colors more than anything else, you know, and logos, but they invoke like feelings, like, and so that's like and I'm like, try to explain that to people, and they're like, I mean, okay, but I want red, and I'm like, yeah. Okay.
This statement might get me run out of town, so I'm going to go ahead. I think about that all the time when I look at Virginia Tech colors, because I'm like, these are the least complimentary colors I can think of. Sorry, wife, to throw you under the bus too. This morning, Rachel was wearing orange pants with a slightly maroon shirt, and I was like, that doesn't go together. She was like, what do you mean? Virginia Tech colors? I was like, that doesn't mean it goes together. It's not going anywhere, so please don't run me out of town. But I think that's some of the thing they looked at too, because like I've also seen logos. I know this is a tool that you don't love.
It's okay. I use it all the time.
I know. So Canva, I've seen so many logos that are within the first 5 search results. I'll even throw it back. I had a podcast at one point. I didn't design this logo. I want to point that out. Love the show. Hate the logo. That was the logo. Once it was out, it was out. It was there.
Yeah.
And then I saw it on everything ever. And I was like, I didn't realize at the time that the person who designed it had gone to Canva, grabbed what they could, and that was there. It was like a logo generator at that point. And it even, I don't think the chamber actually, like, this isn't originally created. So someone else has that similar logo, I think, up in Roanoke. Why is that important with your design, that you own the pieces?
Because you can't copyright them if you choose. So anybody can use them. I mean, if you don't have any ownership, there's no real, you know, I mean, anybody can just use it and post whatever they want. And then if people think it's you, they're going to maybe have a bad opinion about, I mean, you just don't have any control.
Right.
And I mean, while the process is probably lengthy, if somebody does do something like that, even if you own it and have, like, it's still an option if it gets that bad, where it's like affecting your business. So, we've talked about this a little bit before, but like, I give full ownership to people. I keep stuff, like, but as far as I'm concerned, like, you paid for it, you should own it. That's just kind of the stance I've always had on it, and I know that's a little backwards or not necessarily like common, I guess. Most places keep ownership and then just
provide a commercial
licenses. So, and I've looked at that some, and I just haven't really changed it. So
I mean, I think the biggest thing is because there's copyright and then there's trademark, which I think people do get mixed up.
Yeah,
because copyright. And I say this knowing we recently had a law small business workshop, so he said it. This is not Alan Waters, a lawyer. This is a lawyer saying it. Copyright, when you create something, if I go out, if I take a picture, I own that copyright. And so I'm able to do that. When you go onto Canva and you create something, they own that image, that logo, because it is using their materials versus it being drawn or created individually. Trademark, you have to actually go through a process. It's not just like, oh, I say the word trademark and it's done. You have to pay.
Yep.
And it is usually industry specific. And I use the example, actually, it's the same podcast. So look at all the problems that I used to do. We didn't trademark the name, and someone else, I don't even want to say, like, we had the name that we called our fans. They went and trademarked that for clothing, and we could no longer make any of our merchandise have that name or logo on it because someone else had trademarked it. And it was like, well, there's nothing we can do to stop it.
Right.
Goodness. So walk me through a little bit of that design process for you. And when you're, obviously it's going to be very dependent per company, but what are some of the things that you think about when you're looking at those brand fonts and that? Because I've also seen people choose a font and I'm like, okay, that is a choice. I think about the papyrus sketch from SNL. Like, when you're going through and you're choosing brand fonts, what are some of the things you have on your mind?
So I think, like, if you're going to have two fonts, which I think, even if they're not both in your logo, like, you might have a main logo font and then, like, a font you're going to use on most of your other stuff. Highly recommend if you don't have it. Make a decision. But so like how they look together, I feel like is probably the first thing I look at. So it's like, honestly, I really feel like I'm like put like, depending on like the style they're going for is kind of, start there, and I pull like I could talk about fonts forever. So, and I spend a lot of time on that for design, but like putting them just in my file, like here's all the fonts and like seeing which ones like match up. So like here's the two different styles we're going for, putting them all in there and then pairing them up and then seeing how that's going, like what it's going to look like. Cause I think that you can be like, oh, well, this would like look really good for the brand. But then once you get in the logo, you're like, oh, that's not going to work for like how we're trying to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like if you're trying to put some kind of icon in one of the letters, like there's a lot of stuff that won't work for that. So, and just like the tone of whatever you're trying to accomplish. And, I've run into this even with like doing social media stuff. Like you don't have to, yes, you should use your fonts on like the important stuff, but like stuff like that, like you get out of the box, you know what I mean? Like we don't have to use, and it can be something similar. It can be like, long as you're not doing something crazy like papyrus on everything, you're probably fine. Or cursive. I mean, because people don't, and I say that I have cursive in my logo, so I know, but cursive is a hard thing because I don't even, do they teach it in schools anymore?
I don't know in all. I do know, at least where I'm from in Georgia, they are putting it back on the curriculum for this upcoming school year. That is awesome. You say good, and I'm like, okay, let's add typewriting back too.
Yes.
Like, no. Yes.
That's my favorite class.
I once got an email from someone, and I think cursive can look great in a brand, but then thinking about the other uses, I got an email that the email font was in cursive. And I was like, what is happening? I can't read this. And it's not that I can't read cursive. It's that
it's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
By the time I finished that email, I was like, I don't even know that I can respond. I just have to give up.
I feel like usually when I use cursive, it's like headlines, right? Like or like making a statement so they're bigger. It's easier to read. When it's like all tightly together, it's like, this is like a note from my grandma. You know, I mean, like that's what it feels like, and you're like, no, thanks.
I'm one of those people that when I'm looking at stuff, and at least in past and even your chamber, and if I say the words wrong, we're going to go back and cut it, and I'm just going to like sloppily put this in where I say the right words so I'm not embarrassed. So I typically use, with fonts, I choose a serif and a sans serif. Mm-hmm. And that way I know, one, they look good together, and then I usually have a third that is typically, what am I going to find on most processors? And it's like, for the chamber, it's Georgia, because I'm like, it's there, and I know then when I'm creating any of my documents, I can use that, and it always looks synonymous, because I get very particular about that. Like, I want everything we put out to always look like this is from the chamber. So that's at least always been my process, and you got to make sure they look good together.
Yeah. And yeah, sans serif and serif always is a good pairing. The other thing, like especially creating logos in a brand, is making sure you have a font that already has the stuff built in where it has a bold and an italic and a light. And like the more options, the more you can do with other designs and still use that same font, but it not look like all very cut and dry. Because and cursive fonts usually don't have that. So you have to be like cautious with stuff like that. Make sure you can, have some variety. And anybody can like really like make a font at this point. Online, you just go put the letter. You could draw one. That's my goal. Future goal in my life is to create a font at some point. Oh, how cool would that be? But anyway, not that I can draw worth a lick. But it's fine. But yeah, I just think it would just be so cool.
That would be interesting.
I'm fascinated by like people creating they can be so like beautiful or so like just make a point. I don't know. Anyway.
I think it's cool in that like if you get to a point where you're going to rebrand, creating your own font and then being like, oh, my font for my business is Blouse.
Yeah.
Like that's just fun.
Right.
I love that with working with designers, you've got that aspect too, that it's not always out of the box. Mm-hmm. I remember creating a logo for something, and I really loved the font for everything except for one specific letter. And I was like, well, we're going to have to change that. Yep. We're just going to have to go through and fix that, because it was the E. And I was like, why'd you make that choice?
It's always the E or the A.
It's always the E. Like, it swooped in a weird way that I was like, I don't care for that. That's not great. All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about you as our sponsor. And then when we get back, we will continue this conversation. Starting from the small details to the big ideas that you want to communicate, Blouse House Creative will pour their hearts into helping you connect with your audience. Their priority is to cultivate your message in a way that is authentic to who you are. They want to take your knowledge and ideas and craft them into effective products for you. Started in August 2018 as Blouse House Printing and Design, Blouse House Creative has been serving their customers from their current location since February of 2022. It is locally and female-owned right here in the New River Valley. They are ready to serve you with their printers, computers, laminators, plotters, cutters, and binding machines for any of your graphic design or printing needs. Their passion is being creative while still being practical and efficient. For more information, go to blousehouse.org. That's blousehouse.org. Back to the episode. All right, we are back. Before we dive in, I need to thank Grand Home Furnishings for providing the furniture and the carpet that's in this room. Makes it a little more homely, makes it actually sound a lot better than it did when there was nothing in here. So thank you, Grand. All right, specifically getting into print, what is also some of the stuff that people just overlook? Because I think there are so many times when you see a print ad and you can clearly tell this person didn't think about where they are going to be displaying that. Mm-hmm. Either the font is way too small, it's way too big. So what are some of those pieces you have to think about on the branding, but also in the general marketing for a business?
So I think hierarchy is probably the overwhelming, first thing you should think about in any design, but especially for like print stuff that wherever it's going. And when I say that, I just came out with something like this on my social media about like what you're going to look at first. Because that, like, whatever's the biggest thing on the page is probably where their eye's going or the brightest. There can be some, differences. But, if you have a picture, that's what people are going to look at first.
Yep.
The next, they're going to look at the next biggest, the biggest type. that's probably the shortest, more than likely, because it's the easiest to read. And you might not get any farther than that, if we're being honest.
Right, yeah.
So, like, if there's a lot more text, some people are like, it's not worth it. I gotta know what it's
Moving
about.
on, got
right?
there.
Like, unless they really want to know the details. So you have to capture them in those first two, like, things. And as far as, like, legibility, so, like, contrast in your designs, especially when it comes to signs. Like, people are like, oh, well, like, my blue and teal don't look good on top of each other. They look good on the white or the gray that I have, that I use also. And I have some yellow that I put in some places. But so thinking about that, I mean, white on black, you can't go wrong when you're doing a sign.
Right.
And most logos would look good in black or white, or they should.
Right.
If they don't, maybe did something wrong.
Yeah.
But so I think that, just being mindful of those things as to what you're going to get across first and what people are going to see, just legibility is probably one of the biggest things as far as what people are going to see, not making it too much. And people sometimes are like, oh, they're too much. Like, that is really true about design. That might not really be true about people, because I love people that people claim to be too much, because I'm probably one of those people. But when it comes to design, there really is the thing as too much. Like, good design is, I've read this quote somewhere, that good design is like anything that you're like, that you don't have to have in there, like eliminating all the things that you don't really need. Because people want to put, like, oh, well, they need all this information. Like, no, they really don't. Like, they need the highlights. Like, that's all they're really gonna take time to read anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I've seen stuff that is just way too much information.
Yeah.
And like you said, people don't always read.
Yep.
I love those graphics, though, when it's like on social media and it pops up on my feed and it's like, you read this first and then you looked here.
Yeah.
And now you're here. Yeah. And other people may not pay attention, but I'm constantly like, oh, yeah, I did all of this. And this is the psychology that.
Or even like the ones where it's like, you are dyslexic if you read this correctly. And it's like all the words.
Oh, yeah.
I ran into one of those and I was like, yeah, that's me.
My bad. The other piece in that I think that's important to think, not just in print, but in digital too, is the ADA compliance for websites, that if you've got two colors that are too similar to read and they are not legibly able to be read on your website, that in itself could break ADA compliance. And so you have to be careful. I know there are tools out there that can be like, hey, this is what it looks like together and gives you the ratings. But I deal with that all the time. Our colors are not easy to read on white. Yeah. Like, there are times where I'm like, okay, I've just got to. And if you get our, which everyone should, if you're not, go to montgomerycc.org and subscribe to the newsletter. When you get our monthly minutes newsletter, you can see that the Invest versus the Connect, Engage, Prosper is not the same gray that goes on everything else, because I was like, I can't read this against white. Yeah. It just doesn't show. Yeah. It shows pretty well here. I'm not saying that, but like, and most, especially with our printer, going back to our episode on toner versus ink, go listen to that and you'll see why. I also think when you're looking at some of those, you have to have the right file types. And that is something that people often overlook if they're not in the industry. You prefer things primarily sent to you in PDF, correct?
PDF is probably the best choice out of like most of them.
Okay.
But vector is by far like AI or .ai or .eps by far. And I run into this all the time, even with like sometimes other designers sending me stuff or like just, different things. And like, well, I'm like, and so, having to recreate something just to be able to use it takes up so much extra time if you could just get the right file that probably actually exists. You just have to find it.
I think that's the hardest part is like making sure it exists. And that comes down to organization, making sure there. And I say PDF because, I mean, we have 700 members. There are a lot of our members who at some point, a .ai file, .eps probably existed. But that could have been 10 years ago, and finding it's pretty difficult. So, like, the PDF ends up being one of the most commonly and useful ways to send it over that I can still access. And
most of the time from PDFs, if they're saved directly from an AI file, is that you can open it and still change stuff.
Yep.
Fonts sometimes get weird. You'll have to find them or whatever. Outline your fonts, which is like, so you then can't type in them. So they basically become like a graphic. So you can't like edit them. But to go to print, you want to do that because if not, sometimes if whatever program you send it through, if it doesn't have that font, it's going to put something else in and it's going to look weird. Or it just like literally won't print. It won't be there. But sometimes when you do like outline fonts, you have to be really careful. If you don't outline them and put them in other programs, the programs will outline them themselves. And if anything is overlapping, it leaves a little hole.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I've been, done that and printed it and been like, oh, I gotta redo that. That doesn't look good because there's all these little white dots, you know, like so. Things like that are, I don't know, just like a weird, outline your fonts before you print.
Yeah, because we've gotten things that like, and I think I probably overutilized Canva at times.
Yeah.
But like I'll go to upload what they've sent in PDF to Canva, and Canva doesn't have that font, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And that goes for Adobe and everything else. They don't always have every font. Mm-hmm. And then finding some of those fonts isn't always possible because, I mean, like I said, some people have created things and done it completely on their own, which is great. But then there are other times where you've gone to a specific app and the app has a font that's been created. That's not a real font that exists anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I could go on a whole rabbit hole on that one. I'm just gonna let that go by the wayside. So, in that same vein, we were talking about the print digital pieces and making sure the ADA compliance. But outside of that, when it comes to design, when it comes to your marketing, how do you make sure that they are actually complementing one another and working with one another? Because we started the episode saying like, hey, you need to do that.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So I think making sure knowing whatever your print. So I feel like you kind of start maybe with print in the sense of like it's the old school way to do it. And that's if you're handing something out, you need to make sure it looks good because it has the opportunity to make you look really good and professional or not so good and professional. And I say that because I've seen it so many times where like if you go to someone that knows what they're doing and has been doing it and cares, they will make sure that it looks good and is on the right paper. And you know what I mean? Like I do samples all the time. Like, do you like this? And most people are like, yeah, whatever you think. And I'm like, oh, but I want you to like it. I want it to fit you. Cause like I know what I like, but that might not be true for somebody else. Like I like thick, things glossy. Sometimes I actually really, really love matte. I
love matte. Yeah.
Those kind of things, like, they matter. They are part of the brand that we were talking about before, And so starting with that and making sure that's going to look good. Also, making sure you put on something on all your print stuff that links them to something.
Yes.
Whether it's online or a phone number or something to contact you. I feel like people forget that piece. They're like, oh, well, I want my information out there. And that's great. But, like, you have to have, like, a call to action, as they call it, something to send them to. So, and that's where it can really lead into your digital marketing. Like people, yes, are going to go look you up on Facebook and see, okay, what have they been doing? Like, are they legit? That's the first thing people do when they, are thinking about using a business or something. And so you have to have those pieces there.
Right.
So they're not like, this is sketchy. You know what I mean?
Because, you also can easily, if you don't, on your card, if you don't have your social link or something there, it's easy for someone not to be able to find you because sometimes social media doesn't showcase them. I mean, I've gone to tag people and all of a sudden I'm like, well, I know this Facebook page exists and why isn't it showing up?
Yeah.
If I had that exact link, it might be a little bit better. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so then making sure they match in the sense of like not the exact same thing, but they're like it's leading you to the right place. Like if you're like contact us, make sure it's not going to your homepage. Like make sure it's going to your contact us page on your website, or like just whatever it says above that link. Like making sure that it makes sense. Like there's no like disconnect because if it's like, hey, learn more about us, that's different. You could go to your homepage for that because people are gonna, But if it's really like a contact us, like that's what they want. Like, that's why they're going there, because
Yeah.
they want to contact you to do whatever. I really like having two, like, forms, really, of, like, contact, because you just never know. Like, yes, I have a business phone, and I answer and do all things, but, like, when things are crazy, like, an email is so much better. You know what I mean? So if people have a second way to contact you, like, I just think that's, like, a good, frame to have, especially in, like, the day and age we're in, where it's, like, everything's ever, even if it's like a Facebook page and a website, like, and you don't want to put a phone number or something, like, just having two different things that they can, like, jump on and see. Not that you have to have links to both of them necessarily, but at least if the information's there for people. So
yeah, because I mean, I think going back to my sound design days, I think you can learn a lot from that, and in your branding. When the best review I ever got was when someone just said Alan Waters did sound. And it's because in sound, you generally don't realize or recognize it until something's wrong.
Right.
And it's the same thing when you're looking someone at their card or at their website. They know when it feels wrong. They may not be able to point to why it feels wrong, but if it gives them that feeling, it really takes away from you. And like you said, you got like 3 seconds.
yeah.
And that is not a lot of time
Right.
to do anything. So if the first 3 seconds make someone go, or is this AI? Both of those, like, if someone has to think, is this real? You're in trouble.
Right.
And we're all naturally drawn to that. I mean, just this week, I have forwarded 2 different emails to Steve where I went, I can't tell if this is real or not. And one of them was not. One of them was. It's not good that they both gave me the same feeling.
Right.
So, yeah. When it comes to the digital thing, talk about the colors.
Okay.
Because I think that's important to think about, in that your colors should look the same digitally versus print, but that doesn't mean that they are the exact same. Like, technically, those are 2 different colors, right?
If you look at them side by side.
Right.
Yes.
So how does that work?
So it's all about how everything's calibrated, and once it leaves and goes online, you have less control of that depending on how they look at it. And I've dealt with this a lot, even just like people having like their phones like have a dark setting or a light setting, like it's going to change a little bit and you have to like accept that. But when you go to like print, just checking it. I mean, like I do that a lot with stuff, and I'm pretty good at like catching stuff like that pretty quick just because I've done it for so long. But like knowing like what, like having looked at their website or their social or whatever before I create stuff kind of gives me a frame of reference, like what we want it to look like. And so it's like how the printer's calibrated. And I mean, both my paper printer and my sign printer print differently, and so having to make those adjustments, and sometimes it's hard. Like I've had to print like little squares to make sure we are going to get the right thing, or we're going to get grays are like the worst color. Grays, I can't, because they all half the time they look purple when they come out, if I'm being honest, and I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not what we want. And it's just like what is combined in blacks too. Everyone's like, oh, it's black, and I'm like, no.
There's a difference, yeah.
Especially when you like, I have some vendors that I send certain things off to, and so it's like if I have to go look on their page and be like, what is your rich black setting that you use for your printing? Because if not, it's gonna look gray and it's gonna look terrible,
right?
Like, or just muddy. I can't. So there's a couple different ones that are kind of like common, especially for like socials and stuff, versus like just like 100% K in the CMYK black versus like having all 4 colors makes it much like richer and
I've also, and granted, every designer is always going to feel different, but I've seen a lot of designers who will also, when they're working on a logo, even the black or the white isn't the hex code 00 or hex code FFF. It's a slight variation so that it does show up. Even, I mean, our chamber black is, oh God, I wish I could like throw out the hex code. I'd feel so fancy to be able to be like, I know this off the heart. But if you put it next to something that is solid black, there's that slight differentiation. But it also, I mean, I've seen it in print. there's sometimes that it prints and I really love how soft it looks. There are other times I've seen it in print and it's usually like on like really cheap printers where it comes out like neon and I'm like, no, ew.
Yep.
But over the years, like you said, once it's out there, there's only so much control you can do. I mean, I've got our internal brand guide, but if someone else has had the logo, that doesn't guarantee they're going to reach back out and be like, hey, is this correct?
Right.
So I've seen it printed by other places, and I'm like, no, don't do that.
Even when, like, you know, you're sponsoring something and you send a PDF that has all the right colors, like, just do black and white. And people want, like, their logo colors on stuff, and I'm like, just, you're safer if you just do black and white.
Right.
Because if everybody's doing black, like, everything's going to be the same. Like, it's all going to be the same black, ideally, hopefully. You know, unless you, like, know who it's like, if it's your own. But if it's a bunch of logos together, I feel like it's like,
Right.
You just don't even know what you're going to get.
It's also tough, I think, going back to making sure that you've got the right file. If I get a JPEG, I'm going to have to run it through, more often than not, one of those things that auto removes the background.
Yep.
Or it's going to have a white background. And that is not always the most consistent. It's not always the safest. It just depends. And
even those can get a box around them.
Yes.
Oh.
Our member packet for this year, we did some updates and we printed it's called the Roadmap to Prosper. And all of our logos, when I was printing it out, would have a slight blue box around it. And it was driving me insane. I think it took me a week to finally figure out, and now it's fixed. It's not happening. But every time I'd print it, I'd be like, I think I fixed it. And then I'd be like, never mind, and balling up the paper, just wasting our toner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At least it was toner and honey.
that is absolutely the thing I think that drives me the most insane. And because you don't know it until it's done.
Right.
Like,
because it doesn't show up online.
Nope, it doesn't.
You wouldn't see it.
Looks great on my computer, and then I grab it off the printer, and I'm like, no.
And even when you're exporting, like, as far as, like, the digital side of stuff, like, exporting the JPEGs and stuff, if you export it at too high a quality and then you're trying to put it online, it either won't load on certain sites, or it's honestly going to turn and, like, look pixelated.
Right.
Because it's, like, it can't process all the information.
Yeah.
So, like, making sure you save it the right way for wherever you're going to put it. So having multiple JPEGs of something, you're like, oh, which one is it? Like, label them. I'm really bad at that too, and I do this for a living. But like labeling them exactly what they are, so you're not like, let me just export it again, because that's what you have to end up doing. Is
right.
Like,
you don't want final V3 for actual final
plus A.
I also, one of my pet peeves is when it's way too small. And sometimes, like, if I've got to just grab a logo and you go to Google and you're like, all right, what's there? And it's like 144 by, and I'm like, well, that can't go on anything I'm about to do.
Yep.
There are so many intricacies in all of this, which is really to say, work with a professional.
Yep.
Work with a professional.
It'll give you a headache.
It will. And I think it comes back to anything marketing, anything in your work, even as a business owner. If you're spending more time on it than you are making money, it is probably the time to look at getting someone else. I mean,
that's true. Even outside of design, like other things that I don't do well, like no taxes, no way. Like, you can do it. Somebody else can do that for me.
If you're losing out on contracts because you're sitting there doing taxes, are you going to spend more on the loss of those contracts, or are you going to spend more on the accountant?
Yep.
And I feel like more often than not, you're going to spend more on those lost contacts because an accountant may cost money, but they also can keep you having money.
Yeah.
I need to get an accountant. I think every year there's one weekend where I'm like, all right, it's tax time. And I'm just like, no one talk to me. I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And I know I pay my taxes well, but every time I get a letter from the IRS, my first thought is always, I'm going to jail. It's time. It's happening. I'm scared of the IRS. Please don't come audit me. Well, In that vein, where do people come to find Kasey the professional when they're in need of that because they're spending too much time and losing money?
So I am located downtown Christiansburg at 203.5 Depot Street Northwest. Type it in or you'll get lost. Or you can find me online at blousehouse.org.
Awesome. And on Facebook and everything too, right?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. I am on LinkedIn too. We've been trying to push that a little bit more, which I still don't fully understand it, but we're going with it. So
that's I think that's going to be the theme of these back half fall episodes because LinkedIn and I just don't understand each other. I know it's great. I know it exists. I know there's a purpose, but I don't know that Alan is that purpose.
Yep.
So yeah, fun times. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate you being here. Make sure that you go like, download, subscribe, follow, all the things so that you never miss an episode. You never miss any of our other content coming out from the chamber. In the meantime, make sure you go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.